So yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the technology piece, which is just so different.
Very
Yeah,
different.
yeah. And I'm used to writing for a real orchestra, and you tell the conductor, you give them the score, you're all musicians. You give them the score, you can tell them the nuances and where the rubatos are and rallentandos, and and can you make the strings a little louder here and all of that, and to switch to these virtual instruments. And I won't. I'm here. I really want you guys to talk about this more than me, but it was a big sort of shift, which I kind of think, years ago, I thought, oh, maybe I should be a film composer. But I really like writing for real instruments and live singers. I mean, that's what theater is, what thrills me. Um, and so I really doubt I will do the virtual orchestra again. But it really was a challenge. And I know for the three of you, when we met to talk about, where you want the music stretched, or I mean, I'm wondering what you're used to working with real instruments and real musicians. I wonder what it was like for you to have to go into a recording studio and then have to stay with the click track in, hearing that, and then the music in the back. Um, what was that like for you?
I know for me it was a challenge because I feel as a performer we do rely we have this camaraderie, with our conductor, because the conductor is the person that is at the helm and leading the orchestra and us as the singers. And so to have the click track be the conductor now, that was it was a little bit more of an intimate setting. I'm like, okay, I have to really pay attention. And there wasn't, how sometimes, I mean, we had our music in front of us, but sometimes, at least for me, I love to have that relationship with the maestro, that if I forget something or if I'm breathing too early, he'll look at me and like, no, not yet. And then give me a big cue to breathe and come in. And that's like, I feel like that's a nice little security blanket that I've grown to really enjoy and just embrace. And with this, it
No net,
yeah,
no
there's no
protection
net
net.
with this. No net with this. So we had to, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, but I found it challenging. I wanted that net. I wanted to have that sense of security that I was going to be okay. And now I was just, I really had
Mhm.
that click track to be true to. Not that I'm not true when there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
connection
no,
there, but
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
it's
I have some issues there, probably a lot, but I can explain it because probably it's my tenor condition. Always the tenors, we have a lot of mistakes in the music because I was hearing the Yugur's recording and was so perfect. Oh no, I'm under that. I just can't. I was so scary. At the end, it works.
Yeah, and just to
Late.
explain that a little bit, there's a trio. One of the R's is
Mhm.
a trio, and so usually, when there's a trio or ensemble or a duet, which actually Deborah and Cecilia, you have, you're listening to each other, besides just listening to the orchestra and following the conductor. But here, I think for you, Cecilia, you did not have Deborah's recording on that
no.
duet. No,
I
no.
and that adds also to the pressure too, because I was the first one to add any of the vocals for the trio and the duets. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
no, the pressure is on. So
yeah,
I felt like if
yeah.
I messed up, I felt like there was going to be a domino effect after that. So that's why I used this earlier, that it was almost an obsession with perfection. Like I needed to get it right, so to not let you guys down.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was tricky. The learning curve
yeah.
was.
How was it for you, Deborah?
I mean,
Just a
it's
joy, right? A
surreal.
thrill.
It's like singing opera karaoke a little bit.
Yeah,
But I mean, what I love about live performance is you hit that high note and it's right in the sweet spot and you want to hold it just a little longer, no problem. But with the recording, it's like, okay, you get off that now. Go. Keep going.
Yeah, just
yeah,
So, you've got to kind of find the truth in the singing within this kind of more mechanical context.
Yeah.
It's super helped to have Cecilia in my ear because I'm so used to listening to the soprano in all of the mezzo soprano, the classic duets and things, because the soprano has the really high notes, or she's doing some crazy coloratura. So I'm usually I'm so used to tuning into that. So I'm so glad you went first because otherwise I would have been like, "Where's my
Yeah.
soprano?"
The other thing that you guys had to work against was that, which again has to do with the virtual orchestra. And if we had had more time and more money, um, the so the process was, just to share with you, I wrote the music and then orchestrated it into one program called Finale, and then I had to export it, and someone else actually added the sounds, and then it's very different. I won't get into all of that, but he could not add all of the dynamic nuances um, or colors into the recording. Usually, which I didn't realize, because in Finale you add them and it kind of sounds more or less there. It has dynamics and all that and articulations. But when you're working with the film sort of world, they actually have a knob that they move back and forth for loud or soft or vibrato. Okay, so and so we just didn't have time for him to do that or the money. So what you got was sort of just sort of the banal version of the orchestration. I mean, it was just flat. And so later on, after you've recorded your vocals, then I was in the recording studio with the studio engineer, and we were doing some, changes to the levels and all that. So you didn't hear really the final arrangement that in the recording that you were going to hear late in June. So I was thinking about this because it must have thrown you off a little bit in terms of where you were going to be piano or forte, or where you're going to, crescendo. You really had to think more about the music internally than really rely on the orchestra or the emotions of the conductor. So, so bravi.